This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It's another Saturday morning of local chat. I am Rich Spicer. My co-host is Katie Huckle, and we are welcoming to the show our friend Peter Marinoff, the community president of Munson Healthcare Cadillac Hospital. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Rich. Hi, Katie. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Good morning.
Excellent.
So, we have you on about every 3 or 4 months here on the show, and we're glad to have you back. So, tell us, give us the overall health of the health system in Cadillac. I did see just a couple of days ago a big billboard go up over Mitchell Street that Munson Cadillac got 5 stars for patient care, and I think that's probably a good place to start.
That's right. Bravo.
Well, thank you. Cadillac is, we're really proud of the care we've been delivering and being recognized for delivering quality care to the community. 5 stars, I think it's kind of like we're the top 10% of the United States. So it's an honor to be in that group. It's an even bigger honor to be recognized for it repeatedly, which is what we've been over the last few years.
So, Peter, can you tell us, kind of in a broad way, what categories, what does it take to get 5 stars?
Well, I mean, without getting into the detail, there is a lot that's reviewed with the 5-star rating. So it's kind of, I'm trying to think without boring the audience. I'll just kind of sum it up with its quality and safety are the biggest metrics that are observed there.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I'm happy that we've got quality and safety, Rich.
Absolutely.
You're the hospital, the local hospital is a cornerstone to the community, and it always has been. So to see that we're consistently getting 5 stars, it's important. Peter, the last time we had you on the show, this was a goal of yours. So congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you. And, since that time, I'll also say that our OB unit, so the Family Birth Center here in Cadillac, once again, we're rated platinum in the state of Michigan. So that is the highest rating you can get for a family birth center. I don't know the exact numbers of how many were awarded that, but I know it's really tough to get there, and we're one of the few north of Grand Rapids to have that distinction.
Oh, congratulations on that too. We hear from your folks that there's non-traditional organizations entering the healthcare sector. Can you tell us what that looks like?
Sure. Yeah, well, I think when people think of non-traditional, it's really kind of splitting up in certain ways care delivery. So you could see virtual care platforms popping up that may direct you to kind of different windows for care. So case in point, like Weight Watchers, okay? Weight Watchers actually has a collaborative partnership where you can get access to a physician, and then that physician can help you with if you need a prescription for something that could help with maintaining weight. There are, Walgreens locations that have healthcare centers inside those Walgreens locations. It's kind of a model that comes and goes, but we're actually seeing more of those models moving around. So I think that's kind of some of the non-traditional we're seeing, and people were used to really going either to a local doctor's office or their hospital to get care. But now there's probably, many different avenues that they can seek care, and it's a non-traditional format that we're seeing.
Okay.
Does that answer that question?
It does. Thank you for that. I'm smiling because recently, I think it was a radio ad that I heard, and it was something, I'm paraphrasing, but something like, okay, if you're having a heart attack, go to the ER. If you're having it, and because I think, especially post-COVID, people were confused about what they're supposed to be doing for X, and so I think it's helping the public understand that not everything is a trip to the ER, and helping folks understand where they can go if they need assistance. And I can remember when we were in COVID, it was, if you're having a heart attack, please, you need to seek care, don't not come to the hospital, because of COVID. And so now I think it sounds like healthcare is resetting itself to help people understand where to go for what ailment, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
And
Okay.
it's really about, right care, right place, right time. And a little bit to your thought there of, yes, if you're having a heart attack, please, or if you think you're having a heart attack, please go to the ER. But Cadillac's pretty fortunate because we do have a very strong primary care network across the area. So that's a great place to start, is with your local primary care provider. But we also do have the urgent care, virtual urgent care offered through Munson. And then, again, yes, our ER department that we can help service.
A question for you, Peter. One of the things that we got from your PR folks is that you finished the fiscal year on the plus side. What is the biggest challenge, especially for a rural hospital, to stay profitable?
That's a big question. I think it's if you talk to really any of the businesses around, it's probably the same thing. I always joke around that healthcare, we like to think we're unique and nobody else is going through the same stuff that we are. But inflation is really driving a lot of challenges our way. And then I would also say talent recruitment and retention is a challenge also, because you have people with many options and they're seeking different opportunities. So it's not just bringing in great people to work here, but it's also retaining those people and just keeping them in the community. But we're finding there's a lot of competition in and around that can pull them in different directions. So it's a pretty competitive wage environment, not just in healthcare, but in other businesses that people can actually switch to.
Are you finding it, Peter? And I know a lot of industries are having this issue right now, but are you finding housing to be an issue? Attracting people to the Cadillac area and being able to find them a place to live. And I know, Katie's nodding her head here because this is in her world too. Tell us what kind of a challenge you have there.
It really is it's a challenge for us. Again, not unique just to us, but also and not just Cadillac in general, but across the regions. It is very difficult on the housing front. And, my understanding, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, but my understanding is there's a lot of people from outside the area buying homes, and they're not even financing those homes. They're just cash transactions for some of these houses that become available. So the housing front, it makes it tough from an initial relocation standpoint, and then they're usually able to find something a little bit over time, but that is a challenge for us. Daycare, again, is a challenge because up until, about, I think, 1.5 to 2 years old, so 0 to 2, it's really difficult to find childcare. And so recruiting in younger parents, that can also be a challenge in addition to housing.
So we've talked about the negatives. How about the positives, Peter? Let's talk about what makes Cadillac a destination for the people you, as a health system, are going after. What do you use as your carrot to get people to come here?
That it's easy. So we actually have amazing schools. So that again, you're targeting that one segment of people that would have interest in, either they're going to start having children or they have school-age children. Cadillac, I call it kind of the Goldilocks community because it really is a great size where it's not so big. Kids can get lost in the school system, but it's not so small that it's like, everybody knows everything about one particular thing. So it's this really great size community. I think there's a lot of different opportunities. So when you have a spouse that maybe specializes in one thing, the other spouse that comes with them. So if we recruit somebody in, for nursing or for, physician, and the spouse comes along and they want to be employed, there's usually a lot of different options here. I think the community, it's a nice community. I don't want to overlook how nice it is, but it's also pretty dynamic in the different interests you may have, you can enjoy here in Cadillac. So if you like the water, there's lots of great water options. If you like being into the woods and rustic, you can find that. And then, if you want to be more open field, farm country, we have that option as well. And then for the city folk, there is a city here, but also if you want to be in close proximity to a bigger city like Grand Rapids, it really is about an hour away. So I think Cadillac's just in this really sweet spot that helps us to not just, communicate, here's the great things we have to offer culture-wise, but also, I think opportunity to access things.
Well, and in addition to that, you not only have Cadillac, but you also have smaller school systems and smaller communities within a 20-mile radius. You've got Lake City, you've got Manton, you've got McBain, you've got Mesick, you've got Pine River, all very, very close. So a variety of ways to reel them in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for our folks that love the arts, and, we've got Interlochen, and we've got a very robust theater scene here in Cadillac and also in Traverse City. So years ago, a friend of mine, Dr. Resnichek, and I were talking about recruiting, and our joke was that we were recruiting surgeons and recruiting physicians and specialists. And we said we were going to hang a big sign over Mitchell Street that said, Neiman Marcus, 2 blocks on your right. Like... because we wanted, a flagship department store. We thought that was funny. Like, put a Saks Fifth Avenue store up there. But you got to know what you are, and you've got to know what you're not. And another thing that I've heard from, especially couples coming into town, physicians, is the strong faith community. I mean, there are a lot of church and church groups and youth groups and Bible camps and Bible studies, and there's a really strong faith network in Cadillac, and I think that appeals to people too.
It does, and that just helps to reinforce that sense of community. And I think that we all search for that, and we all want to be a part of something, and that's something you can find easier here in Cadillac than you can in many other communities.
Right. When you get to recruit and you're looking at who, do you go back to Cadillac graduates that have gone to med school because they know how great it is? How does that work in terms of bringing kids that have gone to med school back to town?
I'll be honest. I think a lot of times it is maybe a friend network that may reintroduce them. It's I would love to tell you we're really great at tracking people as they go through school. We're not really good at that. But I think we rely more on those friend networks, and then it's a little bit of a circular thing. Whereas if the hospital is focused and the teams are focused on really delivering amazing healthcare, it helps other professionals want to be a part of that
Okay.
because they realize they're not alone in it. And I think that's, again, that goes back to that sense of community. You want to have that professional community that helps to build that up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When did you start, Peter, in healthcare? When did your career start, if you don't mind me asking?
I think, well, so my original start, I'm an accountant by trade.
Ooh,
So
this
my
explains the
original-
good money situation, Peter.
I don't know about that. So my initial start in healthcare was actually in accounting, and then I bridged over to operations later on. And so I think I've been doing operations in healthcare, and it's always been rural healthcare. So I have a passion for rural. Once I started, I never wanted to leave it. And again, a love for Northern Michigan, so I've never wanted to leave Northern Michigan. I think I started that probably right around 2010.
Okay.
Is how long I've been involved.
Okay. So what's the biggest change that you've seen from 2000? So in the last 13 years, what's changed the most?
That's a stumper of a question.
Okay.
I think that healthcare. There's a few things now. One of the really cool things that I've seen in healthcare is treatment options. My dad passed away from lung cancer about, I think, 14 years ago now, and he probably, if he was diagnosed with that same cancer today, he would still be alive. Just based on some of the treatment options I've seen. I'm not guaranteeing that, but I think the options we had were pretty limited then. So I think a lot of the technology is rapidly advanced. So, we're adding, in November, we're adding a CT scanner that is just absolutely cutting edge, and we're able to send the images right to the neurologist's phone.
Incredible.
To read that exam. It's just, it almost feels like it's an exponential growth in technology and treatments. So that's been pretty big. But then I think the other one is, from the industry perspective, like the business side, we've seen a lot of consolidation in the industry. So, look no further than, Munson Healthcare went from a healthcare system of 2 hospitals to now we have really 7 owned hospitals and then 1 very close affiliate hospital. So I'll just say a network of 8 hospitals where it used to be really just 2 owned hospitals. So we've seen a lot of that in the industry, and just to our south, Spectrum and Beaumont merged and formed the Corwell Health System. So that's probably the other large change in healthcare. And probably people would disagree with me and find, other things, but those are the 2 that come to mind.
Thank you.
One of the things that I definitely want to cover here in the next few minutes is, I want to talk to parents of teenagers. Healthcare is a huge industry. And if you go on Indeed, Peter, you will see that probably 20 to 30% of all of the, and that I'm guessing here, but it's an educated guess. 20 to 30% of all job openings are in healthcare. So if we have parents in the audience who are listening and looking for, a great career for their kids, which area is the strongest need in? Because I know this is a broad brush we're painting here with, but what's the biggest area of need in a system like Munson?
I can only imagine right now if the managers of the hospital were listening right now. They're all holding up signs saying, "Say my area." Say my area. It's nursing. It always rises to the top, and I think that change is happening even more as we have a lot of retirements happening in nursing. So that is just going to increase, and the scope of practice for nursing is pretty broad. I think nursing rises to the top. The other one I would say, and this is the one that people don't really see very much of, but our lab scientists. So these are the people that work in the lab. You really don't see them as often. There's a huge gap there with our scientists that work in the lab, and there's some great programs close by that they could go to just to the south of Cadillac. So immediately, definitely nursing. Lab scientists, they're right there in my book. But you kind of see ebbs and flows in other parts. So within radiology or physical therapy, but that's a little more in pockets in different areas that you see those openings. But I think universally around the country, everybody would probably say nursing, and then everybody would probably say lab scientists.
It's interesting that you bring up laboratory science, because I think there is a misconception out there that if you work in healthcare, you have to work face-to-face with patients. And in this case, if you're doing work in a lab, you don't, right?
Yes, and what's even funnier is if you think about a lab, 5% of it is probably all the patients get to encounter, and that might be for a lab draw. There's lots of equipment, lots of stuff going on. It is always busy. It's a really neat operation to have, but that is correct. It is not a lot of patient-facing interaction.
Peter, I want to speak to the hospital team for a minute. I know for a fact that, neighborhood kids love the cafeteria food. The group works together. I mean, I'm talking about the entire staff at the hospital, from the folks, the cleaning crew, to the cooks in the cafeteria, to your doctors and your nurses and your techs. Morale is strong, and when Carla Filkins retired recently, she told me that she had to talk it through with who she reports to, because if it wasn't a good time for them and for the hospital, she wasn't going to retire. Most people are like, I'm out of here when they retire. I feel like 43 years at the hospital, I feel like there's a loyalty in Cadillac, in our surrounding communities towards our hospital, and this, we're stronger together type mentality. Can you speak to your culture that way?
I think you actually just described it really well, but you have it's a Cadillac hospital, the healthcare system here in Cadillac. It's a very tight-knit group, tight-knit community. They care very much for each other, and I actually think, not just with Carla, but I've seen other people that have said, well, I'm thinking about retiring, but then they want to find what the best time would be so that we can find that person that can work in that spot there. But I think the culture, in some ways, it just builds on itself. But honestly, the culture just originates from the community itself. It's the people in the community that actually build the hospital, and really the hospital is just like a fingerprint of the community. It's just the identity of what it is. So it might not be the hospital itself as much as it is the community itself that generates that.
We've got about 5 minutes left, Peter. So, and we have a little less than 5 months left in the calendar year of 2023. So, take us through the end of 2023 and maybe some new and exciting things that are going to be happening with the hospital in Cadillac. And maybe if you've got something going on in 2024, this is a good time to familiarize us with maybe some new things that are going to be happening.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'm not great at predictions.
He's an accountant, Rich.
Yeah, I'm not going to really predict anything here. But I can tell you. So I'm pretty excited about the year in front of us. And I'll just kind of try to touch on a few things. But we are developing more as a system, and by that I mean we're finally getting all of our electronic medical records on one platform. So we're getting that tighter. So as you work through the Munson healthcare system, it's much easier to just translate things back and forth between facilities, back and forth between offices. So that's the equivalent of like putting a new roof on your house. It's not really exciting, but it's really important to have. And it takes a little while to get it done. So we're actually working on wrapping that up this year. In November, we're actually adding a new CT scanner to the hospital. Again, this will have enhanced capabilities here for the community, just offer a lot more. But the other hidden benefit is that we'll be able to reduce wait times to get in for scans because we'll have two in Cadillac now, not just one. The other one is we're redesigning what I would say orthopedics. So, Dr. Bizzigatti is a fixture here in the community, but we're actually partnering with what we would call orthopedic specialists with the Munson Orthopedic Institute to work out of Biz's office and be here in the community. So Dr. Ward is one of those new physicians, and he'll be starting in August. So this should add more capacity for orthopedics in the area. And then, I think the other component is we have a transfer center within the system. And so what that does is that helps to coordinate care so we can get, if patients need a higher level of care or if we need greater communication between facilities for management of patients, we can be better about that. That's something, as we've grown really fast, we haven't been the best at transfers. And so we started up a new transfer center this past winter. It's been very active. And in that process, it's turned Cadillac Hospital a little bit into what I would call a regional hospital. So we're seeing more in transfers from the Manistee community, Grayling and Kalkaska, and sometimes even the occasional transfer from Traverse City down to Cadillac. So we're seeing actually a little enhancement of Cadillac's inpatient here in the community because of some of these, what I would call system approaches. So I would say that over the next 5 months to 12 months, it's a lot of dedication to really helping to continue the transformation of Cadillac from not just a community hospital, but to that of also a regional hospital. Does that answer that question for you guys?
Very well. That's a lot of information, Peter. My mind's just going, he's got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time. We know you're so proud of your team. And so we get to see the results on the billboards. But congratulations on your strong fiscal position. That's directly related to your leadership. But also congratulations on your 5-star rating, which tells us so much about your team at the Cadillac Hospital.
Thanks. We really appreciate it. We're really proud, not just to be recognized for it, but we're really proud to serve our communities around here. It's a huge honor.
Peter Marinoff has been our guest today, Community President of Munson Healthcare Cadillac Hospital. Peter, we're glad to have you on again, and look forward to visiting with you again in a few months.
All right, Rich. All right, Katie. Hey, it's August. Make sure you get out and enjoy this August.
Absolutely. I don't think you've got time to do anything with all these projects that you've got. But yes, you're right. Summer is fleeting. Thank you so much for being with us, Peter.
All right.
Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank, and we'll do it again next week here on 107.9 CDY.